Yeah. Adam, that's the mic to James Cole. Cameras all rolling at the back. All good, yeah? Cool. James, go ahead, please.
Ben, well batted, incredible innings, an incredible game. The flashpoint was that Jonny Bairstow dismissal. Would you have withdrawn it?
Look, I think taking the whole situation into consideration, I think the first thing needs to be said, it is out. The things that I obviously had to consider when I was out there was the fact that it was the last ball of the over. I very shortly questioned the umpires whether they had called over. Both umpires were making the gesture towards walking to their opposite position of being umpires. Does that make sense? Yeah, going from square leg to standing to square leg. And, Jonny was in his crease and then left his crease to come out and have the conversation in between overs like every batsman does. I think if I was a fielding captain at the time, I would have put a lot more pressure on the umpires to ask them what their decision was around the over. And then would have had to have a real think around the spirit of the game and would I want to potentially win a game with something like that happening, and it would be no.
Where's it left the relationship going forward in this series between yourselves and Australia?
I know a lot's going to be made of this, and I think if I was to sit here and go on and on and on about it, it will just take away the fact of what that game was. It was an unfortunate situation for the game to have, but it was an incredible game. Take that away from it and we'd all be talking about how good the game was, and I don't think we should be sitting here talking too much about something like that.
What did you make of the atmosphere at Lord's? It's very rarely, if ever, like that. There was even spilled into the long room. What did you make of everything that was going on?
To be honest, when I'm out there, you hear the noise and everything like that, but I personally just try and stay in my own little bubble and my own bubble with the other batter who's out there with me. I could obviously see that things were ramping up and it was getting a bit vocal, and it wasn't until I got out and then went and on the balcony to watch the remaining half an hour, and I was just like, I've never heard Lords like this. It was even at the back end of the Test match, it reminded me of the World Cup final in 2019. It was good to see Lords, a ground that's not sort of has a reputation for the atmosphere and the noise, but today was one of the days where Lords showed up.
What did Stuart Broad say to Cummins and also Carey?
Brody, he was on one, wasn't he? He was really on one. Look, I think you've seen Stuart. He's played 160 games, and it's not the first time he's been expressive with his body language or niggle towards the opposition. And I think if you look at the situation of the game when he came out, he needed that. He wanted to get into the battle. He wanted to pick a battle. I was about to say with someone, but he picked it with the whole Australian cricket team. So look, that's Brodie, and look, what he did for the team in that situation with myself particularly was incredible. The barrage of bounces he was copping, the blows he was taking, but he stood firm, and he took it, and he played incredibly well and was very, very brave.
Finally 2-0 down. How do you come back from here? What do you cling to in terms of belief?
We've won 3-0 against New Zealand. We've won 3-0 against Pakistan in Pakistan. We've won 3 games in a row twice. What we're thinking about was winning the series 3-2.
We'll go Rory, Chris, and then Stefan.
Ben, you've said what you've said about spirit of cricket and how you would have reacted in that situation. Does that go forward now to Headingley, or with that happening today, do you think actually we're looking for our 1%ers or little chances to do the same back?
To do that back to them?
Something like that. Yeah, take opportunistic, or do you sort of retain your thought on the subject of the spirit of cricket?
No, I'm not looking to do something like that because they did it.
Could you sort of talk us through I know you said you were just concentrating, but the wicket falls, Stuart comes out, and the entire tenor of your innings changes completely. The sixes start flying into the stands. Was that a sort of a reasoned, a conscious decision, or was it just kind of in the moment? Yeah, that was what happened.
Look, I knew it was obvious what Australia were going to try and do to me and Stu. And to be honest, the time that I'd spent out there already, I felt that to take on the short ball, it was actually easier batting from the pavilion end because the slope was obviously in my favour as a left-hander and the wind was slightly blowing that way. There was potentially going to be a time where I had to go from playing my normal way to going up a lot, and obviously losing Jonny bought that time out. No disrespect to Stu, but I think I play the short ball a little bit better than him. So yeah, I had to take the sort of most of the balls, and I trusted him for taking three balls and over, 2 balls and over as well. And then at the other end, I think it felt a lot more difficult to be able to really take the attack and try and hit the boundaries or the sixes at the other end, just because the slope was against me, and I just felt it was a lot more difficult to actually play the pull shot for me from that end. So I think it was pretty obvious in terms of what my game plan was, and came off a few times.
Sky News, and then we'll go Chris Stokes.
Thanks. Yeah. Were you angry when after the incident? I mean, you did, as you just mentioned. I mean, you accelerated in a violent fashion. Really. I mean, it was extraordinary to watch. Were you triggered by what happened?
No. Like as I said, I'm a person who really likes to stay within his own little space. I obviously asked a few questions out there when the whole thing went on, but I didn't. I purposely, decided not to engage myself in anything further than that because I wasn't going to be able to change a decision. We still had some runs to score, and I knew that I was going to play a big part in that. So I didn't want to get myself sidetracked by something that I couldn't change, and just made sure that I was staying focused on the job at hand.
And booing in the long room, never been heard before like it. What did you make of that?
Pretty mad, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, Chris Stokes.
Hi, Ben. The reaction at Lord's obviously was pretty unique, should we say, not known for its hostility. This Australian team have now probably got a target on their back for England fans. The word cheat's been bandied about for hours on end this afternoon. Headingley not known to be the friendliest ground to opposition fans. Do you think that atmosphere will be ramped up, and do you think that could help you guys?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be ramped up, but I think, look, obviously Australia have had their, have had their past. They came here a few times since the incident, and I think they're all used to the English crowd. When we go to Australia, we get lambasted as well. But look, I think that's part of the sport in which we play. That you get thousands of people together who want their team to win, and they'll just jump on stuff. It's the same thing when we go to Australia. We get it as well. You get 90,000 Australians at the MCG all cursing at you, but it's part of it. It's it's just part of the job.
Given where you are in this series, does it help that the next Test match is at Headingley? Obviously, we all know what happened 4 years ago. No, not really. I don't think that plays a huge part in it, to be honest. We like playing at Headingley as a team, and I think the thing that we've got is that I don't think the grounds where we play at next really matter, because we know that we've got to win the next 3 games to win the Ashes back.
We've got a few to get through, so one question each. Stefan, and then we'll go Wilmot first, and then Mel, and then Malcolm.
Ben, obviously the outcome was ultimately different, but when you were in the middle today playing that innings, did it feel like you were doing something similar to what you achieved in the World Cup final and at Headingley 4 years ago?
Look, obviously, being in those 2 games in particular, I was able to take experiences from those 2 innings, and particularly Headingley, and just sort of go about it in a similar way, in the same way, and look to take my boundary options, but then also look to somehow try and get some 2s, and then obviously look to try and get off strike it towards the back end of the over. The one thing that I did find hard today was actually finding gaps for 2s, because the fields that Pat was setting were actually quite hard to find the gaps, and pushed it. I think I only got a couple away, but going back to Headingley, obviously I took a lot of the things that I did there into this innings, and obviously the more balls that I faced and that partnership with Stu, the better off we were going to be. obviously had to take some huge risks at some points, because everyone was on the boundary and just had to imagine that there weren't anybody there and just try and go over the top of them.
Will, go ahead.
Ben, Jonny started this game by lifting a Just Stop Oil protester up and carrying him to the boundaries. Obviously ended it with a very strange, unusual dismissal. How is he? Can you give us a feel? He sometimes can be quite vocal in his...
Yeah, look, I think he's obviously disappointed that, he wasn't able to come in and influence the game in the way that he would want to. Moments like that are set up for Jonny Bairstow. We've seen it a lot last summer, that when the pressure was on him last summer to stand up and put a performance in, he did it more times than not. And the times he was out there, the balls that he was facing, he looked like the Jonny Bairstow who was going to go out and smack a unbeaten 80 or 100 to get us over the line. So yeah, he's obviously going to be incredibly disappointed. But I think overall he's more disappointed that we haven't been able to walk away with a win.
Mel Farrell on the far side.
Ben, I'm just wondering, does this feeling right now, having lost this match, is it different to the feeling after Edgbaston, or is it the same?
No, it's the same. I think losing's losing. The emotions, will always be the same regardless. But when you then sort of sit back and understand where we are at in the series, it's actually very exciting to know that the way in which we are playing our cricket is actually more perfect. Couldn't be more perfect for the situation we find ourselves in. We have to win these 3 games to get this earn back, and we're a team who are obviously willing to put ourselves out there and do things against the narrative. So now these next 3 games is an even a better opportunity for us that I think that we've ever found ourselves in before.
Malcolm Conn on our right, and then Sonia.
Jonny Bairstow rolled the ball at David Warner stumps, and he was batting presumably to try and dismiss him. Would you have withdrawn the appeal if it had been David Warner had been dismissed in that way? And will you ask Jonny to stop doing that, given that you thought what happened today was unfair?
Was it the end of the over?
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I'm not sure. I can't remember either.
So that makes a difference, if it's the end of the over or during the over?
Massive difference.
Sonia, go ahead.
Hi Ben, it's not very long now until Headingley, and we saw you bowl sort of 12 overs straight yesterday. How are you, and is that enough time to get the squad sort of fully ready and recovered?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's pretty obvious that I've been carrying this knee problem for a while. Got through a few overs in the game against Edgbaston, got through a 12 over spell here, and to be honest, I just sort of picking my moments to come on and bowl, and all my seamers were into their 40th over throughout the game already when I came on to bowl, and I was feeling good, but it actually got to the point where I was like, if I stop now, I'm probably not going to be able to come back, so I'll just keep on going and going and going. And it wasn't until I started feeling cramp in my legs that I thought it would be silly to have one more. I probably could have stopped at 11, but I don't like odd numbers, so I just have one more.
3 more we'll do. Dan Bretton here in the corner, and then Sam from Channel 9 will finish with Barrett at the end.
Ben, this feels like about 5 days ago, not 24 hours ago, but the Mitchell Stark catch last night. Can you just talk through, I suppose, how you saw it from the middle, and I guess how it transpired out there?
I think I seen the law actually on it was like 33 point something. It's like 12 lines long, whereas I think it could just be as simple as if the ball touches the grass, it's not out. It'll make it a lot easier, I think. Yeah.
Sam, Channel 9.
Ben, speaking after the game on radio, Baz said that he doesn't think the team will be having beers with the Australians anytime soon. Do you feel the same way?
I think there's a bit of emotion in that, to be honest. Obviously, it's very soon after something happens. I'm not one to hold a grudge too much, to be honest. Been through enough to know that you can sort of let things go, but I think to ruin a tradition that has been for so long of such a big series, I think feelings from a few people will definitely change as the series goes on, because I think, maybe if we weren't to do what we always do at the end of a national series and have a beer together and say well done, great effort, all that kind of stuff, would be sad. But I think that was just emotionally fueled. So yeah.
Last one at the back, Barrett, and then we're done. Thank you.
Ben, you've always said that you're really happy with the kind of cricket you're playing, but just how do you reflect on the first innings? Say you're 1 for 180 and then you'll start losing wickets, but you came and played in a different fashion to the rest of your batters. So are you okay with just how it played out? As captain, how do you look at that?
Yeah, I think, the way in which what we've managed to do in the dressing room from myself, Brendon and the other coaches is give every individual clarity on what they want to do. We're not up there saying you need to do this, you need to do that. What we are saying is you've got the backing of the whole dressing room to go out there with something in your head that you feel is the best way for you to take the game on at that given time. Walking out there with any second guesses or second thoughts in your head about how you want to play a certain situation of a game at any time is, in my opinion, not the way to go about it. If you have that clarity in however way you want to go about that, then that's what we want to do. Both times that I started my innings in this test match was towards the back end of the day. I went out there with a mindset and very clear around getting through that period and starting again in the morning. Doesn't always work because I nicked off the first ball the next day. The thing that I will look at it is I'll just tell the lads, let's just try and make our execution better. I've got no issues with the way in which our bowlers went about it, the way in which our batters went about it. It's just a thing on can our execution be better next time we get put in that situation. Cricket's always going to be a game that gets judged on the outcome of an individual's decision. But look, we'll keep on giving every player the best chance to be completely clear in their head about what they want to go out and do. Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Just so everyone's aware.
And is there?
Yes.